The meeting will come to order. Ms. Gore, will you call the roll?
Mr. Benjamin?
Present.
Ms. Conlon?
Present.
Ms. Williams?
Present.
Mr. Lamar?
Present.
Dr. Dion?
Present.
Dr. Vios, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I would love to.
And if everyone would please remain standing for a moment of silence. Uh-oh, what are we gonna do?
You okay, Ma? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Mayo, I'm going to turn over presentations to you.
All righty, thank you, Ms. Williams. All of you know probably by now that this week is Tennessee School Board Member Appreciation Week. And so we certainly want to acknowledge and recognize our school board members for all that they do for our district. And you had at your station tonight a very small token of appreciation from our central office staff to hopefully assist you with your school board work. And thank you, Vanna.
It needs a little air.
It'll blow up. It's one of those things, you know. So what that is it's an iPad sort of holder, just so you can prop your iPad up and you know, if you're watching those exciting TSBA webinars and you just can't take your eyes off of it, but you need to do something else, you can prop it up and do that with it. So we sincerely appreciate each and every one of you for what you do for our schools. And personally, it's a pleasure working with each of you, and you all make my job a lot easier with your support. And so on behalf of the district, I can say that we all appreciate each and every one of you for what you do. At this time, I think the principals have a presentation to honor our school board members too.
So from our schools, we wanted to also express our appreciation, our gratitude for you, for all the work that you do for us. We know it is a heavy load, and you probably get paid what you should get paid for the amount of hours. It probably comes down to about 2 cents an hour about what you get paid for the work you do. But I want you to know, and we know how effectively that y'all work and support Mr. Mayo in the district office, but I want to tell you that we feel your effects and your supports trickling on down to the school. We see many ways that the policies that you put in place, that the way you support us at events as parents and friends of the school, coming to things and participating and being engaged with our administration and our teachers. We truly feel your support at that level as well. We wish you could get into the schools more often. We know it's not, we don't have a lot of things going on for y'all right now, but we do hope that we can continue this great working relationship we have with you. So thank y'all so much from the schools for everything that you do for us. So you may have already received in the mail a card of thanks from LeBonner. We made a donation in your name to LeBonner Children's Hospital, individually in each one of your names, and specifically to the education fund. And so we thought that'd be a great way to support our community and also the passion that you have for education as well. Tonight we're giving you just a small little fun token of appreciation, so you have something tangible as well. This is for all of you and Mr. Mayo as well. So donations were made in your name, and then a small little thank you to give to you tonight as well. Okay. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you, Dr. Hodem.
Mr. Overby, at this time, I think you have a video that you want to show.
There's a funny old saying that school boards are where old politicians go to die, and I think the biggest thing that I figured out is that even statewide, people that are on school boards are not politicians. They're just regular people that want to do good work.
I love this community. I taught at Arlington Elementary, and was really, really happy here. So when Mayor Wisman asked me to serve on the Transitional Planning Committee, which was before we formed our district, it really got me interested in how we were going to form this new school district. I think that just motivated me to want to run, and a lot of citizens had come up to me and asked me to run, so I just felt like, well, if I can help, that's what I want to do.
I went to UT Knoxville, and I do have orange blood. I'm sorry, I know that's not okay down in this area, but I've lived here my whole life, and it's such a joy to see what happens to a child when they have the opportunity to learn something, and you give them that little spark that gets them going, and you just continue to sort of facilitate their learning, and it's so wonderful to be a part of that.
Honestly, I've had the kind of school system in my system for most of my life. I grew up with my mom working in the school system. She worked for the Superintendent of Education down in Alcorn County, Mississippi, and so I just was around it for most of my life. When this came available here in Arlington, we'd been in Arlington for probably a decade at the time, and I was like, ooh, you know, that lets me get intimately involved, being close to things that are going on, and so I began to attend school board meetings and listen to what was going on, and thought it was a good opportunity to come in and lead and serve.
Well, I have been in the education business at the college level for 50 years. I've been a teacher, an instructor, I've been an administrator, and I still am teaching part-time at Southwest Tennessee Community College. I had been an alderman for 10 or 12 years, and then I was asked to run for the school board. So I thought this would be an ideal position for me, since I had been in education for a long period of time, to make a contribution to Arlington in that position.
I think the most important thing for me is being a product of public education. It's something I was passionate about. I was just a poor dyslexic kid, barely getting through school, and nobody cared. Ran across Miss Akins in 3rd grade, and she took an interest and kind of opened up the world of literature to me, and helped me get the resources I needed to turn the dyslexia thing around, and I never forgot that. So an opportunity to be involved in public education in any way, for me, was a no-brainer.
The school board serves as a group, and we all work together to do what's best for our school district. So I'm very proud that we are working as a team and working for our students. I think our teachers and administrators, as well as our central office, has really been a great example of that, and we want to make sure we're giving them our full support.
Also to participate in votes toward teacher salaries, teacher step raises, superintendent, teacher bonuses, you know, those kinds of things that help keep us the best district in the state.
We've upgraded all our facilities. They are really top notch. We've upgraded our athletic facilities. We're giving this new STEM lab that we have created is unprecedented in really high school academia around our area. And so I love the fact that we're not only doing athletics, we're doing academics. We are giving people a lot of different pathways to be successful.
I think Arlington is very, very fortunate in having these type of facilities. However, facilities are not the only thing. I've learned in my 50 years you can have the greatest facility available. If you don't have teachers and administrators who can execute the curriculum, you build those for nothing. So we have an excellent facilities in Arlington for the students, and we also have a staff and teaching faculty that are able to execute the curriculum in a fair way.
The thing I'm the most proud of is doing it, you know, getting schools open, because we had 7-ish months and everybody said we couldn't do it. The state didn't have anybody at the state level that knew how to do it. The thing I'm most proud of is, you know, virtually 7 months later, students walked through our doors and never even missed a beat. They never knew the board changed, the ownership changed. They didn't know anything. They just showed up for the first day of school. And that's what our goal was.
I also had a part in choosing 2 of our superintendents, our very first one and now our second one, and what 2 great people we've had to serve our school district and our children. So we're in good hands.
Okay, we will be posting that at some point this week. Tyler Hill obviously put that video together for us, very high quality work as usual.
Yes.
And we'll be posting that a little bit later on. Those of you that have noticed, we've been been featuring different school board members. I think we started with Ms. Williams on Sunday, and then Ms. Conley was yesterday, and Mr. Benjamin was today, and I don't know who's tomorrow and who's going to be the next day, but I bet it's Mr. Lamar and Dr. Vigas. And so we've been trying to make you all more Facebook famous than you already were, and then this video will be the icing on the cake. So again, we just want to honor you and thank you for all that you do for our school districts and our school district. And I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you. Well, I have to say that, I got to say this, our superintendent and our staff and teachers and administrators, you certainly do the work. We just want to make sure we're supporting you all the way, and we're behind you 110% because we do work as a group and as a team, and you've been the best example of that. When I've seen the teamwork that y'all have done this year, oh my goodness. We had to make sure we were a part of that team, and we support you 110%. And we think our new superintendent's doing a fantastic job. So we're very proud of this system, and it's all because of you. So thank you. And board members, thank you for all your hard work and all your support that you're giving. And it's been a pleasure to work with you. Ms. Gore, do we have any citizens' comments? Thank you. All right, is there a motion to approve the January 26, 2021 agenda?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Benjamin to approve the 26, 2001 agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Dr. Viox is the second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the January 26, 2021 agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. All right, we're ready for reports. The chairman's report. I have asked Dr. Viox to help me with the chairman's report tonight. We have been asked by TSBA our opinions about TSBA leaving National School Board Association. So I think some questions have come up about that. As of July, I believe, Dale, is that correct?
Correct.
Or Dr. Viox? We will no longer be a part of the National School Board Association. I do know there, have been some concerns about the conferences, because I know they were good conferences. Also, there were some legal workshops I know that Ms. Speakman used to go to, legislative workshops that were held in Washington, D.C. And so Dr. Viox, being on the Tennessee School Board Association, has more inside information for us. So I asked him if he would let us know what he knows about the topic, so we can form an opinion tonight. Dr. Viox?
Sure. So when I was on the TSBA board, this all came about in 2019, and we had already paid for that year to belong to the NSBA. And the way it works is you pay to belong to the NSBA, and that opens up your ability to go to their conventions and legislative workshops and what have you. So you sort of paying for that right to attend, and then in addition, you have to pay for that. In many, many years, their ideology has not been aligned with us. They allow one southeastern United States person to be on their board. And it encompasses about 8 or 9 states. And so every 8 or 9 years, you might, from the state of Tennessee, might have the ability to be on that board. We were fortunate in 2019 to have Bob Alvey on that board from Jackson-Madison County. And those of you that know him, he is truly one of the last few statesmen around. And I've never seen him get frustrated, but he was very frustrated with them because of the way it's run. They essentially blow through all the money the states pay and parties, and when they have their convention, they bring every single living past president, all expenses paid. Now, TSBA invites them to their convention, but it's sort of on their dime, right? And so they really have been, I think, up to $14 million in debt. So negative balance sheet of 14 million. They got desperate a few years ago and sold their only asset, which was their building. So now it has no more assets. And it's very expensive. I think it's based on the number of students. And so I think the year before, I think in 2019, we may have paid almost $70,000 to belong to this group. So a couple of the states got together from the South and wrote a letter to NSBA and said, hey, we're very concerned about your spending practices. You no longer have any assets. You're this far in debt. And asked them to change a few minor things just as a concerned member. They never even brought it up for a vote, and it was never considered, and they've gone on and done what they were going to do. So we sent a follow-up letter that said, hey, thanks for ignoring us. We're going to give you one more chance, and we'd like to hear if you're going to make any changes. And again, there was sort of a canned response to the second letter, and the decision was made by the TSBA board at that time that we were going to walk away, as well as I think it was 8 or 10 other states, all just, all around us, kind of decided the same thing. The issue with that is that, as Chairman Williams said, those things were national conventions, and they took place in some great cities. The time I went was San Antonio, Chicago, Philadelphia, or some of the other cities. It's really kind of a nice time to connect with people all around the country. The legislative stuff was in DC. It was all set up for you through the TSBA. Really did the legwork for that, but we just didn't feel like they represented us at all, and so that's why the Tennessee School Board walked away from them. I think there is some concern in the southern states about, hey, this was a good resource, and they had new board member orientations and everything like that, but it's wildly prohibitive. It's $6,000-$7,000 a board member to go there and attend those things. So it's just, and then to see all that money sort of squandered, right? Like, you're not good stewards of the money that we're paying. We just felt like it wasn't worth what the experience that we were getting from them. So we walked away, and I am back on the board at TSBA. We don't have our first meeting until February 15th. So I'll be there for that, and I'll get a little more lay of the land. I'm assuming that they've had some people question them about why we walked away. And this is, I think, spurred the opinion thing. I don't know that for a fact, but I'll have more information next month when I go. But it was a done deal. I mean, obviously, we can always join back up, but it just, to be that far in debt and just not care. And then the DC thing was just completely off the chain, not how Arlington thinks. And I don't really want to get into specifics individually. I can, but they didn't represent us at all in DC. So I think that's sort of where it comes from. This opinion thing was new to me. I didn't know about it till I got the same email that you guys did. So having been there, it just was unconscionable that this national organization would just completely ignore, it was 10 or 12 states. It was a bunch that said, hey, we're going to pull out if you guys don't change your ways. And they didn't even address it. So definitely not representing the members. So anyway, that's what I know.
Thank you,
You're
Dr. Bielks.
quite
I
welcome.
appreciate it so much.
I have a question just really quick. So
Absolutely.
what would we miss if we,
Well, that would be one of my concerns, but I did see
Yeah.
where TSBA said they would start doing more legislative things, try to get more, conferences and conventions going, I guess.
Well, I think the idea is now that so many people have walked away from this, and it does not give you the ability now to go to the NSBA. I do lament that a little bit, because that was such a great experience for
Sure.
me, even though I went by myself, and it'd been better to have a partner. But it was really cool. It was jam packed, lots of cool stuff. you do realize on a national level, when you start talking to people, how really, really good we have it here. Because a lot of districts are really suffering, but I think now that the states that pulled out are gonna kind of form a coalition, and we're gonna, you know, maybe do something for the southeastern part of the country, probably together, probably along the same lines of that. It's not in place yet, and I bet you I'm gonna get a bunch more information in February. But what it does is the only thing essentially that it affects you is that you can no longer go to NSBA because you're not a member.
Okay.
So,
Right, we could not attend those, yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions? Do y'all want to let me know what your opinion is? Just you can, you know, let me know your opinions, and I have
I
to
voted
call-
to pull out, so you know my opinion.
I think I know it.
I mean, if the state's not
ready.
a part of it, I mean, can we actually be a part of it if the state's not a part of it?
Well, I think right now they're soliciting opinions about the fact that we don't belong anymore.
Okay,
Beyond that, I don't know.
yeah.
When you're $14 million in debt and no assets, why would you want to belong? That would be my question.
Yeah.
I completely concur. And for the state to pay as much as we do, you know, and it depends on students' numbers, but I mean, I know for 1 year we paid $68,000, that's a lot of money to not get any.
So you wonder what happened to it? yeah.
Well, I know what happened to it, but.
Oh,
Well, I think it would be wonderful if we could have something, a smaller group of states
Yeah.
pulling together to come up with some of the opportunities for learning that
Yeah.
TSBA has provided for us in the past,
Right.
and continue to have that kind of thing, even if it's virtual or however, but if the states could work together, I think that would be a good thing.
And we were all pretty unified in the pulling out and the strong letters that we all sent, so my conception is probably that this is in the works, and we'll find out about it, but it will be travel, will be cheaper, because it should be kind of sort of combined to this part of the country, and you know, hopefully that'll open it up to more opportunities for districts that may not have the resources to get there. So it may actually be a better thing for some of the poorer rural countries that can't go to those kind of things. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully I get a lot more information next week or 2 weeks.
so we've already got two opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a reason to pursue it unless Dale finds something out that's just, you know, shocking to us all, but I don't expect that to come either, that, oh, wait, we should be part of it. I don't expect that to be the case, so I'm not sure why
I
we
think
continue
Ms.
on.
Conley made a good point in that, you know, it seems like it'd be more beneficial to us to do a more local thing
Yeah.
for our areas, because we'd have more in common, or maybe same problems or same needs.
Well, certainly more of a common ideology.
Exactly. Good
Certainly.
point, yeah,
No
yeah.
question.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank y'all so much. I appreciate that. We are ready for the superintendent's report.
Okay, I'm gonna start by just talking a little bit about second semester and letting you all know that we're off to a great start. Teachers and students are, you know, making it things have gone very smoothly for second semester. Our principals, administrators have made the adjustments that we needed, some small adjustments as we received more students back second semester. There were some minor adjustments that we talked about earlier. All of those have been put in place, so it's gone really, really well second semester so far, so I'm very pleased with that. And I appreciate all the work that the principals and administrators have put forth in that effort, because that's what it takes to make it that smooth, and I can't be more pleased than I am with that, how that's gone. For a matter of reference, we have currently 740 students that are online, and we got 87 at AES, 88 at DES, 149 at AMS, and 416 at AHS. So that's still right at 15% of our total enrollment of students that are opting for online learning, which is very low considering, you know, in comparison to other municipal districts. I think we've been on the low end all along, but we're still very low for that. So I'm pleased with where we are on that. Again, I want to express appreciation to our employees for their continuation of keeping things going, keeping things rolling. I mean, we're continuing to talk about our protocols and our safety needs, and that's what's keeping us open. That's what's keeping our extracurricular, our sports programs are being able to continue as a result of that. So it's because of our employees that are you know, enforcing those rules and making sure that everything is being done the way that we've laid it out, and we've proven that it works. So we're really trying hard to continue that. As far as our case count is concerned, we had a really good week last week. This week on our dashboard, we're a week behind. We report on Monday for what happened the week before. So last week, we only had 3 student cases in our district, and we have 1 employee case. That is considerably different from where we were a week after we came back after the holidays. I mean, we were talking, you know, 30s and 40s in student cases that week, and that, you know, we were bracing for it because we knew it was coming. But it didn't get any worse than that, which was a big relief to us. But for us to be back down to just 3 cases and 1 employee case is really commendable. It may be different this week. It may go back up. We've had 2 or 3 cases already this week that I'm aware of. But that is the trend in the county, that we are seeing a downward trend in cases. So we're hoping that continues, and that as the vaccine becomes more available, that will hopefully all that'll catch up with each other, and we'll start to see that be the norm instead of a trend or a shocking trend. Right now, overall, we've had about 218 positive student cases to date, and that's about a 4.5% positivity rate for our student population. And as far as employees is concerned, we've had about 53 employees, and so that's right at 11% for positivity. That doesn't include quarantines. Those have slowed down some too, the quarantines. You know, in the beginning it was, you know, we might have had 100 kids being quarantined and, you know, 25 positive cases that we were dealing with, but all of that's slowing down too. So that's a good sign, hopefully in the right direction. So speaking of that, I've sent you information yesterday about the vaccine and where we are on the planning for that. I was hoping to have more information to share with you tonight, but we had a call scheduled this afternoon at 3:30 with the health department, and it didn't happen. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. So it's going to be rescheduled. And so hopefully I'll have more information to share with you at a later date. This was actually a vaccination implementation planning call. So we were kind of looking forward to that, trying to find out what's going on, but we don't know at this point. I believe I shared with you that Ms. Speakman is working on an MOU on behalf of all the municipal districts. I volunteered her and then kind of told her about it, but she readily agreed to do it. And all the other people were happy that she agreed to do that. So she and I actually worked on that a little bit before this meeting today. And so we're trying to move that as quickly as possible so that there are no barriers when the vaccine becomes available for school employees, that we'll be ready for that. I had mentioned to you earlier also that we are hoping to maybe host and be a vaccine site for not only for our employees, but for a couple of the other municipal districts, where our numbers all added together would equal a good vaccine day, because they told us they can get up to 800 to 1,000 done in a day, and so we would fit within that quantity if we all join together and make it worthwhile for all of us. And, you know, again, pooling our resources, pooling our nurses, and all that'll be part of the MOU as well. So we're still working. That's our hope to be able to do that. Also, you are aware of probably the special legislation session that was going on last week. Last Friday, they passed some very interesting bills that I don't have much hair, but we've been, pulling it out, trying to figure out what we have to do or what's going to be required of us to comply is what we're charged to comply. And so we'll be figuring that out, and it gets a little bit clearer every day. Friday when I went home, I was very frustrated because of the lack of sense that some of it makes at this
Amen.
point in the school year. So, but we're working through that to make sense of it. I've asked Ms. Speakman when she gives her report a little bit later on to sort of give us a high-level update. She's been following that very closely and helping us know the decision points that we're going to have to make and the timelines for making those. So she's going to give us an update when she does her report a little bit later. The STEM Hub tour, we mentioned that in the video earlier. That was a great success, and we are planning some private tours to showcase that at Arlington High School with some of our business partners so that they can know what's going on behind Arlington High School's walls. We've gotten a lot of mileage out of that as far as media coverage. I received a letter from Representative Mark White yesterday in the mail bragging about, he actually attached a copy of one of the articles that went out and, offering his support and his, whatever he could do to help us with that. And so I sent that to Ms. Speakman and I said, let's be ready when we get ready to fire up about some of these legislation amendments that are sure to come in a few weeks. So we're going to be poised to do that. But anyway, that was good news on that front. I do want to give a special shout out to Mr. Goforth for he's really led all of this and organized the whole thing, and his team, his staff. Mr. Winkler has played a big role in that. Mr. Ruff in our operations department, making sure that everything was up and running and ready to roll as according to our timeline. Ms. Wyrick in the instructional department also, and Mr. Hill has also been very instrumental in helping us promote that program. And also the AHS admin and teachers and team that have put a lot of hours into that program. Our next step now is making sure we're marketing that program, making sure that our students are aware of it and that our parents are aware of it, and that we're preparing students to meet the workforce if that's their goal. We're also wanting to open that up for electives for other students to know about these programs, because sometimes students need an elective, they might take a class, and then all of a sudden they've sparked an interest in a potential career. So that's something that we're looking at promoting as well with this program. So we're excited about what that's going to offer for us. We've started, as you know, the budget process has begun for next year. You have a budget calendar, and we're pretty much on track of following that so far. One of the things that I wanted to mention to you all tonight is that if you have specific budget items that you would like to see included in the budget, I would appreciate if you would get those to me or get those ideas to me, and then that would give me an opportunity to research and find out what the fiscal implication is for that. And then I can pass that on to Ms. McDaniel and Ms. Roberts so that they can do their magic and put that in the budget. And then it'll be in our first draft when we start looking at if we're over our budget or areas that we need to cut back on. At least that would have had the opportunity to have been in that first draft of the budget. So if you have those items, if you want to come see me or email me, text me, whatever you want to do is up to you. But I think it would be most productive for us to have those on the front end so that we know what we're looking at before we get to our one-on-one sessions, and certainly before we get to the budget work session. That would be helpful. ESSER funds, I think I've told you, and you may have read a little bit about it. We actually we're allocated, we haven't received it yet, we've been allocated about $3 million in ESSER funds. And basically that's part 2 of the CARES Act grant, but it's now called ESSER .2 or 2 point or something like that. But anyway, it's ESSER. And there are some restrictions around what we can use those funds for, so we have started that process. I believe that application is due March the 1st. So we've started looking at things around obviously continuing our safety protocols, looking at some staffing continuations that we were able to do with the CARES money that we didn't know that we'd be able to fund in the next year's budget, but with this money, we'll probably be able to do that. So those are the kind of things that we're starting to look at in brainstorming. We haven't, we've just gotten started with that process, so the brainstorming, I'm sure we'll come up with a bigger price tag than what we have money to pay for. So we'll have to go back and kind of prioritize that. Ms. Douglas and I talked about that today, of how we probably need to have like three buckets of what we know we want, what we kind of want, and what we'd like to have if we have any money left over. So we're kind of looking at it that way. And she actually will manage that because it is a grant, and that falls under her responsibility. And she keeps us on track with that. She doesn't let us get out of line. And so we appreciate that. The 2022-23 instructional calendar, that survey has closed. There is a very clear-cut calendar winner among all groups that were surveyed: teachers, administrators, support staff, parents. We had right at 1,269 responses to that survey. The majority of those were parents. I think about 900 of those were parents. And so what I'm doing now is going back and reading the comments. We had like 74 comments that went along with that as far as suggestions. And I'm going back and going through those and seeing if there are any tweaks that we can make to that calendar that was the obvious choice. I have found one that makes sense that I will be going back and adding, and that I'm in the process of looking through all those 74 comments to see if there are other ways that we can accommodate some of those requests where they make sense. Now, we had all kind of comments on there, things that weren't even related to the calendar. But that's what I'm having to sift through, what's calendar related, So we'll get there. These three calendar choices that you saw in the survey, those came as a result of the work that the superintendent's leadership roundtable did. We had a lot of discussion over that. At one point, we were going to have 5 calendars to vote on, and another point, we were going to have 3, so we ended up with 3. And they sort of served as our calendar committee this year. And so we will be looking at, as I said, those suggestions, and then probably either February meeting or March meeting, I'll be bringing you all a calendar to request approval for the 2022-23 school year. Next year's calendar is already approved, and we are hoping and praying that we don't have to do anything to it, and we get to leave it alone, and we get to follow it as it's been approved. So that's where we are on that, and I'll be following up with you there. I do want to let you know, because I know this is something that's going to start coming up, is graduation. That's going to start getting on the radar pretty quickly, and I do have a meeting scheduled tomorrow with who I consider the 2 experts on graduation, and that's Ms. Chisholm and Ms. Dixon. I'm going to start with the experts first and have my first informational meeting. And we talked casually about a couple of things, and then I've got a couple of ideas. My goal is that we have some sort of in-person graduation this year. Since we're in school, I feel that it's important that we somewhat mirror that with our graduation ceremony. So that is the goal. Hoping we can make that happen. We've got a couple of options that we're going to talk through tomorrow, and hopefully I won't make Ms. Chisholm and Ms. Dixon too nervous and upset about that, because they're very meticulous about their graduation. That's why we have one of the best that you'll ever see, is because of the work that goes into that. So we'll be working on that, and I'll be sharing out more a little bit later. So stay tuned on that. At this point, I'd like for the executive staff to give their reports if they have any. Dr. Clark, you're up first.
Good evening. Thank you again for the support that you provide us, because it does mean a lot to have a school board that is behind us, and each and every one of you in your careers, or when you worked and not retired, and that you work with children, and that's very important, and I know that means a lot to the employees. Just an update, we have 2 classified positions. We have a teacher assistant position at Arlington Elementary School, And then we received notice on March the 8th, the gentleman that is finally retiring as the Safety Compliance Assistant at Arlington Middle School. So we have those 2 positions posted. Last week, we heard there was a need for elementary and middle, and I understand that by looking at their fill rate to have a permanent sub. We've always had a permanent sub at the high school level, but given their fill rate to keep it more consistent to 100% fill rate, we have now allotted a permanent sub. So there is a permanent sub until the end of the school year at both elementary schools and a middle school. And what that does is when a teacher has to be out for a period of time related to COVID, it was hard to keep that same person in there and then keep that fill rate for other jobs through the school. So that's assisting the principals in that area. So that was taken care of last week, and those positions are filled. Currently, I'm working on student enrollment projections, and of course that will drive the staffing projections, as you know from the past. So that's part of the upcoming budget year that I'm currently working on. So speaking of staffing projections, I did put out an intent survey, and that will be completed around February the 5th, that everybody has completed their intent, because we'll have some that will retire and join you. And speaking of that, then that leads me into the next item, is our Arlington Community School Teacher Job Fair. We will have one this year in person, but you know, making sure that we adhere to the COVID and all the social distancing, and we want to make sure people are comfortable in our environment. There'll be 2 nights. It'll be on March the 2nd and March the 4th. One is elementary, one is the middle high, and the specials and sped. We will have dinner, so you're invited to come. It'll be pre-packaged, COVID style. At 4:30 is when we will open that you can come. In our first session, because we're having to do it in sessions and they're having to sign up in advance, will be at 5:15, and then the next one at 6:15. So you're welcome to come one night or both nights. I will send you follow-up information so you can make sure you mark that on your calendar. So I would love for you to be there. Of course, you're going to be part of my PowerPoint, and I'll introduce you. Our theme this year is join the A-team, because you want to be part of the A-team. And as you mentioned, Ms. Williams, several times tonight in the beginning, we are a team, and that's what I feel makes Arlington very unique. And you are welcome to wear your Spirit shirt that night and support your team.
I was going to ask if we should dress.
Arlington High School baseball there.
Should we dress like the A-team, like from the TV show?
Well, I want you to dress with our Spirit wear, and you're representing a team, so we'll let you do that on that night. So we'd love to have you one night or both nights. You're welcome, and I'll send you follow-up information.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Mr. Goforth?
Good evening, board members. To kind of extend the conversation what Mr. Mayo talked about, we had a great experience with our AHS STEM Hub. Some of you got to attend. We're very glad you did. And now, as I said, that was the fun part. Now the hard work begins, because there's a lot of moving parts with this, from safety trainings to, as Ms. Penny knows, marketing and recruiting the right students to go into these new programs as well. As is, we've started working with our industries to get, we're going to be offering, as Mr. Mayo referenced, private tours to, in fact, we started today with Microport. So they'll be bringing in some of their senior manufacturing folks to come in for a private tour. So the more of these tours we can conduct, the better connections we feel like we'll have in the local community with our industry. So like you said, so a lot of moving parts, but we're monitoring closely. And one other point is, like I said, a lot of moving parts. Through all of this process, it's very important, since we do have partnerships with Southwest Community College and Tcap Memphis, we have to make sure that we all have good, clear communication with these institutions, with curriculums and partnerships and MOUs and different things. So there's just layers and layers to this, but the high school staff have done an excellent job in getting all this up and going. So it's like you said, the hard work starts. Also, to kind of extend on that, just so you know, we do offer entrepreneurship at Arlington High School. That program will be growing in operation next year, and just a little overview of the way that program will grow is, with our new STEM hub, some of these courses will produce products. The STEM course will produce different products such as ornaments, different items. The Fab Lab can produce items as well. Woodwork, welding can produce items. So beginning next year, these programs our students will be making products that will be sold at Arlington High School. And this will all be done through the entrepreneurship class, which in turn gives our entrepreneurship students the ability to learn how to operate a business, how to grow a business, that type of thing. So this stuff just keeps feeding into different programs as well. So we're very excited about this. And I know Mr. Duncan at the high school is as well. So that will be growing as well. We're currently in the process of working, just so you know, back to our strategic plan, the Seal of Biliteracy is something that we wanted to grow our number of kids in the district, or high school students that are biliterate and can speak another language. So we are beginning that testing process at the high school. Also, students will begin selecting courses at the high school, and our 8th graders at Arlington Middle School as well as Lakeland. That course selection window runs February the 1st through April the 1st. So that is in process. Just so you know, the BioSTEM at the high school is a new program that was part of the STEM tour. But we've also, as you know, our junior ROTC has been in existence for 2 years. It's been highly successful. We added an instructor this year. So we've been able to gear that into a program through the state called Leadership in Government. So that will fall actually under the CTE realm, where now these kids can get, as in CTE, a concentrator. So this is giving them more opportunities to take what they learn in junior ROTC and go out into the community and the career to gain more experience in different things. So anyway, so that's exciting. And like you said, I keep going back. I'm astounded that in 2 years that JROTC program at high school has been incredible, and other munis now wanting to, again, copy and start one as well. So we've been working with a couple of other municipals on how to start that process up. Also, just so you know, and you're welcome to come, we will have an Arlington online event for our K-5 students on February the 12th from 1 to 2:30 here at the district office. It will be a Valentine blast where our online kids, they drive by and they're able to pick up a STEM kit that is Valentine themed. And most of you probably know, but we've had a couple of these drive-bys for our online kids because they miss so much of a connection to other students and to their teachers. And so a lot of them, this is the first time to see their teachers in person. But, you know, we have been amazed at the number that come out. So while our other kids are in the elementary school celebrating Valentine's, we figured we need to do something for our online kids. So you're welcome to come by. It's on February the 12th in the afternoon. And last thing, we want to just give a shout out to Donaldson Elementary School. This past Saturday, they hosted a perennial math competition. And then in 4th grade, we had first and second place winners for the individual competition. Also in 4th grade, the 4th grade team placed second in the team competition, and the 5th grade team also placed second in the team competition. So perennial math is something that works at Donaldson and also at our middle school, and is kind of being surveyed in our other schools as well. But it's great math opportunities for our kids. So just wanted to congratulate the great work there. So that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Goforth. Ms. Hawkins was waving at you. I think she was trying to let you.
Whoa, just saying.
They all qualified for the national, like their scores were they qualified for the national, so that's later on in May.
Wow.
Got to watch the new principal now. Call you out. Ms. Douglas.
No report.
All right, thank you. Mr. Ruff.
evening. Just want to give you a couple updates on some projects that we're doing right now. One of the things that we recently had the ribbon cutting for, as most of you know, was the athletic facility. We had one piece of the pie left, and that was the batting cages. They just got installed about 2 weeks ago, and I don't think there's been a day or night yet that they haven't been used. So I know there's plenty of students and coaches and parents who would love to thank you guys for approving that project and finally bringing it to completion. Our next project is the gymnasium addition at the high school. Unfortunately, it hasn't broke ground yet. We're still waiting on the state fire marshal approval. Permit process has been quite challenging with the COVID. Once we get that piece, which we're very hopeful should be this week, we're going to present that to local Shelby County Code, and we should be able to start a groundbreaking ceremony for that, and we'll send an invitation with Mr. Mayo and let you guys know exactly when that's going to occur. So very anxious to get that project started so we can hurry up and get it under wraps. I mean, it still seems like it's going to be a very quick project, not nearly as extensive as some of the other ones we've had because of the smaller size. So anxious to get that underway. And one last thing I kind of want to add that's not necessarily on our big project list, but I think it's kind of important that you guys are aware of. We just completed today some more badge access for 4 at the Arlington Elementary School, 5 at the high school. Safety is a word that's COVID related right now, but also we have campus safety, I think, that oftentimes gets overlooked. So I just wanted you guys to know that we're being very proactive, and in the next month, we're going to add an additional 18 cameras to our system. So that way we can actually help monitor these campuses a little bit better. So thank you guys we couldn't do that without your approval, obviously, and thanks for everything. Appreciate you.
I had one question.
Yes, sir.
Has there been a window broken already in the indoor facility?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I didn't really want to report it, but yes, sir. We have that. It will be repaired by the end of the week. So.
He really didn't want me to know, because I didn't know that.
It was my son that threw a baseball through the window.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
I'll send you a bill.
Yes.
Just kidding.
Oh, is it for real? There you
They
go.
were playing, he overthrew a kid and went right through the window.
Hello.
Wow.
Thank you, guys.
Ms. Speakman.
Well, the special session's over.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Special.
Big, long pause. Boy, they really put a lot on you guys and on these teachers and on the principals and on my colleagues over here. So much so that I'm a little reticent to stand here with my back to them for fear that old adage of, don't shoot the messenger is gonna actually happen to me. But all kidding aside, there were 4 significant pieces of legislation that were passed. As usual, some of what's been reported wasn't exactly accurate. So Mr. Mayo really wanted me to make sure I spend a little bit of time with you guys to make sure that you have an accurate picture of what happened, because we know for a fact you're gonna get a lot of questions from teachers and your colleagues and people in your neighborhoods. So without further ado, I'll try to cut it as short as possible, but hang on to your chairs because it's gonna take me a second. So first of all, the funding bill. $67,331,900 was appropriated for just one of the bills, the learning loss bill. Keep in mind, as you're going through your budgeting process for this year, though, that's non-recurring, despite the fact that the provisions of the learning loss bill go further than just this year. So, yep, they're gonna give you the money for right now, but you've still got requirements in upcoming years. The other piece of the funding bill was $42 million appropriated for salary increases for teachers and other certified staff. Now, again, remember the word non-recurring, because that money is not gonna be replaced next year or the following years. One of the things that's been reported, though, is that this is a 2% increase. That is not the case. This is just money that is given to each school district that's apportioned to them based on student populations. And the board, Mr. Mayo, will need to determine, how that's divvied out once we figure out how much we get. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, where's my 2% raise, it may not come out to 2%. So that's something for you guys to be really careful about. The next thing is the learning loss bill. This bill is based upon the perception that since last March, there's been a grave amount of learning loss because students haven't been in school for a period of time and that sort of thing. But the bill goes further than that. The bill also kind of snuck in the agenda of the General Assembly that as a state we need to do something about the fact that not all children in our state, and as a matter of fact a large number of children in our state are not reading proficient. So they snuck in a little provision in there that's not just COVID related. So very briefly I want to talk about what's covered in that bill. So first of all, what is learning loss? Learning loss is the loss of academic knowledge or skills previously acquired or a pause in academic advancement due to extended time away from school. So the learning loss bill provides that we provide as a district 3 different camps. The first one is called the After School Learning Mini Camp. The next one is the Summer Learning Camp, and the last one, Learning Loss Bridge Camp. So first of all, what is the After School Learning Mini Camp? That's going to begin this summer. So in less than 5 months, these guys have got to put all this together and be ready to rock and staff it and etc. So that's the first complication. That's after this summer. I'm sorry, that's after this summer, but starting with the school year 2021. Okay, so that's the first camp. But anyway, you've still got to have it planned as to how you're going to staff it and budget it and that sort of thing in less than 5 months because you got to get your budget done. So anyway, but those are 1-hour camps, 4 days a week. And they have to have as their academic focus science, technology, reading, engineering, the arts, and mathematics. Now, here's who these camps get offered to. Must be offered to students who completed 3rd or 4th grade in the immediately preceding school year, so that's this coming year and then going forward, and scored below proficient in math or English language arts on the student's most recent Tcap, or a student who completed kindergarten, 1st or 2nd grade in the immediately preceding school year and attends a school at which fewer than 50% in the students in grades 3 through 5 scored proficient in math or English language arts on the most recent Tcap, or a student who completed kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, or 3rd grade in the immediately preceding school year and is eligible for temporary assistance for needy families, or a student who completed kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, or 3rd grade in the immediately preceding school year and scored below proficient in math or English language arts on the student's most recent state-adopted benchmark assessment or screener, or RTI squared screener. So now let's move on to the next camp. That's the Learning Loss Bridge Camp. That begins in the summer of 2021. This is a 4-week camp. It's 4 hours per day, 5 days per week. Who goes to that one? A student who will be entering the 6th, 7th, or 8th grade in the 2021-22 or 2022-23 school year who scored below proficient in math or English language arts on the student's most recent Tcap or state adopted benchmark assessment. Or a student will be entering 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade in the 2023-24 school year or in a subsequent school year who scored below proficient in math or English language arts on the student's most recent Tcap or state adopted benchmark assessment. Moving on to the next camp. This is the Summer Learning Camp, and this is the one that I was telling you a minute ago we have to be ready for in 5 months. That will be conducted in the summers following the 2021 and 2021-22 school years. These are 6-week camps, 4 hours per day, 5 days per week. That means a student who gets to go to this is a student who completed 3rd or 4th grade in the immediately preceding school year and scored below proficient in math or English language arts on the student's most recent Tcap, or a student who completed kindergarten, 1st or 2nd grade in the immediately preceding school year and attends a school in which fewer than 50% of students in grades 3 through 5 score proficient in math or English language arts on the Tcap test, or a student who completed kindergarten, first, second, third, or fourth grade in the immediately preceding school year and is eligible for temporary assistance for needy families, or a student who completed kindergarten, first, second, or third grade in the immediately preceding school year and scored below proficient in math or English language arts on the screeners and state benchmark assessments. Now, who's going to teach these?
Amen.
These camps? First of all, you need to know that these teachers have to be licensed. They have to be licensed in the grades that they'll be teaching, and they have to be licensed in the area that they'll be teaching. If there are not enough of our teachers who, or other teachers who are licensed in those areas, we can hire people who are from the Tennessee Accelerating Literacy and Learning Corps. That is a new corps, CORPS, that is being put together by the State Department of Education. Now, the complexity in that is that we are basically in February, and they don't have the corps created yet, or the people trained to be in the corps, and so I don't know how much use the corps is going to be to us for this summer. Anyway, so some other things to think about in terms of your budgeting, et cetera, as it relates to these camps that all these folks are going to have to deal with. You also have to provide snacks, breakfast, lunch, et cetera, so that involves our food service people. Now, priority students are not required to participate in the camps unless the local Board of Education adopts a policy requiring that. So that's something that you're going to have to think about. Now, can other people who are not priority students attend? Well, that's subject to available funding. So you can see how convoluted this is, because You've got to figure out how many people who are priority, then you've got to figure out what your funding is, then you've got to figure out if you're going to have enough money left over to offer it to people who are not priority students, or whether you even want to offer it to people who are not priority students. So again, you can see how complicated this is. So moving on, when I talked about the learning loss bill, I said that there's another piece to it. Well, what they've decided is that beginning with 2022-23 school year, students in third grade shall not be promoted unless the student is determined to be proficient in English language arts based on the student's achieving a performance level rating of on track or master. Now, the only way that they can get around that in terms of being promoted is if the student has received less than 2 years of ELA instruction, was previously retained in grades K through 3, the student is retested and then turns out that they show proficiency, or the student attends the Learning Loss Bridge Camp that we talked about a second ago and maintains a 90% attendance rate, and their pre and post tests at the camp show adequate growth. Have you guys fallen off yet? Okay. The student is assigned to a tutor through the Tennessee Learning Corps, the one that's not being created yet, to provide the student with tutoring services for the entire upcoming school year. If those students who are promoted to fourth grade and are still not showing adequate growth, they may not be promoted to the fifth grade. So what does that say? In terms of budgeting, if you work all this out in your mind, and I know a lot of you are really good at projecting and budgeting, is that you will have a larger number of students who attend school for 13 years. So you have to plan for that in terms of anything from facilities to teachers to money, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a complexity in that bill. Let's move on to the next bill. The accountability bill speaks to how student growth data will affect teacher evaluation. So that's what's been referred to as the hold harmless bill. And I'm not going to go through all the intricacies of that bill, but suffice it to say that teachers will be given the option to to exclude certain scores, student growth data scores on their evaluations if that information is not helpful to their evaluation. Another piece to this is the letter grading. You remember a few years ago, the General Assembly decided every school is going to be letter graded. Well, they've decided that this year that's not, that doesn't look very good for anyone. So what they've said is that if 80% of each district students participate in person for the Tcap examination, those scores won't be used to provide a school letter grade. Now, so then that begs the question, of course, well, what happens if 80% of the district students don't, show up for the Tcap test and participate? And so the provision is that the Commissioner of Education can provide a waiver, but we don't really know what that waiver, those waiver exclusions will rely upon. So the other piece of the bill is the absence of data due to cancellation of Tcap as a result of COVID can't prevent a teacher from being granted tenure. And this is a measure that the board will have to take up, is each school board may choose a percentage between 0 and 25% that scores from the Tcap administered in the 2020-21 school year will count on a student's final grade. And then last, we have the literacy bill. The governor and the Commissioner of Education, have put a lot of emphasis on buying, if you will, this literacy product. So foundation literacy skills instruction means an evidence-based method of teaching students to read that includes phonemic awareness, phonics fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension that enables students to develop reading skills. So the district has to buy textbooks and instructional materials that are on the state's list that comport with this new way of learning, if you will. And then the LEA shall actually every year administer a universal reading screener to each student in grades K through 3 during each of the 3 administration windows established by the Department of Education. And if the results of those screeners determine that a student in grades K through 3 has a significant reading deficiency, the parents must be informed, and certain very specific supports must be put into place to deal with those reading deficits. And then by no later than June 1, 2021, the district must develop a foundational literacy skills plan and submit it to the Department of Education. So you can imagine what these folks are going to be busy doing in the next few months. And then by August 1 of 2023, teachers in grades K through 5 must complete at least one professional development course of foundational literacy skills instruction. So that's a synopsis of those bills. Here's the incredible news is that the General Assembly will reconvene February 8th to provide you with a lot more bills for you to think about, and a lot more things we'll be responsible for. But one of the most important is that the governor is supposed to include in his budget package this was a preliminary report, a 4% increase to the instructional component of the BEP. So, and of course last year you also heard he was going to do a 4%, and it never happened. So, but anyway, that's what it's supposed to be right now. But the piece that's important to know about that is that by increasing the instructional component of the BEP, that means that money is recurring. So this is new money for next year, whereas the first bucket of money that I talked about that is not tied to a percentage is based on the existing budget, the existing state budget. So this is prospective prospective money that we'll be talking about come February 8th. Are there any questions that I can possibly answer? If I know the answer to the question, I'll be happy to answer it, and if not, I can look it up. All right, thank y'all so much.
Just one
Thank you.
comment.
Yes, sir.
If I remember correctly, the voucher bill that they shoved through exempted all of their voucher schools from everything you just said.
Yes, it did not, however, exempt charter schools. So that was a surprising, addition to the legislation.
The only comment I have is we need to all start meeting with our legislators as fast as we can and tell them you're crazy. This will not work. I mean, we need to start emailing and developing relationships with our legislature, y'all. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is too much. I mean, we may need to march. We've done it before.
Well, the piece is that, I think the real head scratcher about the whole thing is that, I think when superintendents or board members are faced with this legislation, they often ask, well, who did the state talk to when they were putting together this legislation? Because surely, someone sitting in Mr. Mayo's chair wouldn't have said, oh, gee, this sounds like a great idea. So we really are concerned as to where this information came from that put together the bills. So, all right, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss. You might want to leave while I'm leaving. No, I'm just kidding. And one of the things that Ms. Speakman mentioned was about the input from superintendents. I think that's part of the disconnect with all of this is it is reported to the legislators that great input has been received from superintendents, but nobody across the state in all the school districts, and we're on a superintendent listserv, and everybody's asking each other, have you provided any input? No, have you? So we can't find anybody that's provided that input that legislators are acting on under the guise of this is kind of what superintendents want to happen. So there's definitely a disconnect with that. So that's very concerning as well as frustrating. Mr. Hill.
I considered saying no report after Valerie shows up. I'll be quick. So just to touch on some media coverage, some of it was mentioned earlier tonight. Of course, the AHS STEM Hub Tour was covered in the Daily Memphian and WMC Action News 5. Great coverage out of that. Also wanted to bring to your attention, in case you didn't see it, Daily Memphian and Local Memphis also covered a new program that has been launched in the district through academics and accountability and through our social and transition specialist called Close Gap. It's that program that helps students identify maybe some emotional and mental issues they're maybe going through, and it helps connect them to a counselor if needed. So we got some great coverage out of that. The national organization or headquarters of Close Gap actually reached out, I believe, to our social and transition team, and they're wanting to market and highlight ACS for how we're using the program in our district. Great. So pretty cool that we're getting some kind of national movement on that as well. So props to Dr. Constance Sershin and Era Williams, the social and transition specialists who have really pushed that program out. Mr. Goforth mentioned earlier about incoming freshmen and their course selection, how that process is beginning. So typically, at least the freshman counselor and possibly more counselors from the high school, they go over to Arlington Middle and Lakeland Middle School every year to help incoming freshmen really identify the types of areas of focus they want to look into, the types of four-year plans they want to look into, and just all the different courses that we offer at the high school. Due to COVID-19, that obviously isn't happening this year. So we wanted to look at a different way to kind of package that material, and we came up with the Freshman One Book. All of the things you need to know as a freshman before you enter high school, bounded all into one book that you can reference your freshman year, but also I feel like your sophomore and later years as well. So it includes the areas of focus that we offer, how to develop your ninth grade course selection plan, how to develop that four-year plan, but it also goes into kind of the atmosphere of being a Tiger. So what clubs and organizations we offer, what athletic programs we offer, basically how to get involved as a student. And that's going to be really important this next year, hopefully, as we come back full force in August, where all of our students are back, because we're going to have to get them acclimated to what it means being a Tiger and what it means being a Bulldog at Donaldson, really get them back into the school culture. And so I hope this Freshman One Book is one functional in a way where it's actually helping them select their courses, but 2 is a marketing piece for not only incoming freshmen, but also any family interested in either coming to the high school or coming to Arlington in general. In addition to this, Miss Ellen Payne, the freshman counselor, will also be putting a virtual video together to help those 8th graders, incoming freshmen, select their courses. So we've looked at it at many different angles, and hopefully it helps them out. Finally, just School Board Appreciation Week. Thank you for agreeing to do those interviews and pictures. I know it's not everyone's forte to be in front of the camera, but I think you all did a great job, and I think it helps highlight the service that you're offering to the community. So thank you for that. Like Mr. Mayo said, we will post the video on Friday, so your video debut will happen then. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. And really condensing all of those programs and course selections and all that, that's something that's been needed to be done for a while. And so this one good thing that's come out of the pandemic is it's forced us to have to do some of those things that needed to be done for a while. So I know that's a tool that will be used for years to come. So we appreciate that. Ms. McDaniel, do you have anything other than what you normally do? Okay, then that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayo. Financial report, Ms. McDaniel.
Good evening. The financial report tonight is for November 2020. Your general fund revenues year-to-date, $13.6 million. Expenditures were at $16.2 million. For our nutrition fund, our revenues are at $304,000. Expenditures are at $361,000. The federal and discretionary grant funds revenues are at $1.2 million. Expenditures the same, 1.2. And then CIP fund, we've got revenues of $326,000, expenditures of 1.7. So then for our interlocal health benefits plan asset trust report, also for November, year-to-date revenues at $17.6 million and expenses at 12.6. The net position beginning balance was $7.7 million and it ended at $8.9 million. And now I will turn over our report to our auditor, Clark Province. He's here tonight to just give you a quick overview of your audit report that you should have received already.
Good evening. Thank you, Board and Superintendent Mayo, for having me. I am Clark Province. I'm a partner at Watkins Uberall. I'm responsible for overseeing the audit and signing the audit report for the financial statement audit and the uniform guidance audit that we did for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2020. Was filed with the state of Tennessee about the last 2 weeks of December, somewhere in there in the last 2 weeks of December. Briefly to go over this, and also want to say if there are any questions that you have and you don't want to ask here, feel free to contact me and I can go over any of these reports in person or over the phone with you or any questions that you may have. Just a brief overview, an audit requires us to come in, look at your internal control structure, determine if that looks appropriate, and then we assess risk over the financial statements of where we think things could go wrong. Based on that risk, we perform test work to come up with our opinion. We did produce a modified opinion on your financial statement audit that is also known as a clean opinion. It's what you want to have. Regarding your uniform guidance compliance audit, we tested Title I again this year. We test Title I normally about every other year because we have to rotate it in and out with other federal funds that you receive. At the very least, we have to test it every 3 years, just because of how large it is. So we tested that again this year. We also issued an unmodified opinion on the compliance audit as well. And then regarding audit findings this year, I would like to point out we did not have any audit findings this year, which is good. That's our first year in a couple of years, and so we've cleaned up everything that we've addressed in the last few years.
Great, Amy.
And this year we're able to issue without any audit findings. Financial highlights for the year that I just wanted to point out, just from my view of looking at other municipalities and other school systems, really are more school systems, obviously. Your government-wide financial statements, which are the financial statements that look like a regular business. We take everything and we put it all into one, what you would consider a balance sheet. We call it a statement of fund balance. You had a $5.3 million increase in your net position, to $121 million. $21 million of that is unrestricted funding. Likewise, in your general fund, which only takes into account the money for the general fund, you had a net position of $22 million, of which $21 million of that is unrestricted. That's a $1.4 million increase. Why is this important and why is this good for y'all? Your general fund expenditures last year were only $43 million. Your unrestricted fund balance is $21 million, which puts you at a 48% ratio. That's really, really strong, really strong. Better than anyone else around here. I just wanted to point that out to y'all. You're operating below budget. Your expenditures were below budget in your general fund by approximately $5 million this past year. Some of that's related to timing. Some of that's related to decreased expenditures related to not having COVID. But then you had other expenditures you had to take into account too. Next year, your audit's going to look a little differently. You got a whole lot of new funding, that's going to, a lot of that is federal money that's coming through the state. So it's going to be real interesting to see what all we have to test related to your compliance audits next year. So be in contact with us if you have questions regarding some of the compliance. Because anytime you have a new program, there's room for mistakes. It's just really important that we keep our eye on that because there's a lot of new funding and it's changing all the time of what they're wanting to ask, what they're wanting you to keep track of. That's just the brief overview. Do y'all have any questions for me about anything?
I think it was a great report.
Yeah, and yeah, I know your teachers have been hard at work, and I can't imagine being a teacher this year. But your administrative staff did a really great job. Amy and Miracle, really Amy this year, because Miracle was out quite a bit. So you really took the reins this year. It really did a good job helping us out.
Thank you. All right, we're ready for the TLN report. Ms. Speakman covered all the great news we received tonight, and I'm so glad she did that instead of me, for sure. But I do have some news. Germantown Municipal School District did contact me today and wanting to work together with all the municipalities on this mess. I can call it a mess, because it is. So I really am for that, and I will keep y'all posted on that so that we can work with the other municipalities on working with this legislature, because I think it's going to take us all together, doing it together. Numbers speak volumes. So if it's just not just Arlington Community Schools, Germantown, Millington, Bartlett, Collierville, Lakeland, let's all join together and work to see what we can do, and maybe get some people to listen, I hope. But anyway, just wanted to give you that bit of news. All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. And is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Lamar. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Ms. Conley. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion's carried. Superintendent Mayo, we are ready for you to lead us through our two big, beautiful business items. Only two.
Okay, Ms. Williams. First of all, the first item up for consideration is the contract with ENA Services for our internet access. This actually is an opportunity for us to expand our bandwidth, and we will actually be paying a little bit less than what we're normally paying for that. So that's a really big deal and a cost savings for the district. We also have the opportunity to get that price because we're sort of piggybacking on a bigger contract through Metro Nashville Public Schools, which we've been doing for a number of years. So it is my recommendation that the board approve the ENA services for internet access and related services for the period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024 in the amount of $8,375 per month.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, get more, pay less.
Amen. All right, it's been moved by Mr. Benjamin. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Ms. Conley. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion's carried.
Okay, the next item is a motion to approve Resolution 2021-02 of the ACS Board of Education expressing concern with Senate Bill 7001 in regard to the 80% Tcap participation requirement. Ms. Speakman spoke a little bit about that earlier. Basically, you heard the explanation of the 80% requirement and that there is a possibility of a waiver, but those waivers are undefined, so it is my recommendation that the board approve Resolution 2021-02 of the Arlington Community Schools Board of Education expressing concern with the Senate Bill 7001 in regard to the 80% Tcap participation requirement.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Lamar. Do we have a second? Second by Ms. Conley. Is there any discussion?
Is this one we're just adding our names to, that we're opposing this? Is that what we talked about? I can't remember how this, we talked in our work session about this. Is that correct?
This was actually one that came up as a result of the concern that Ms. Speakman spoke to earlier about having 80% of your students having to take the test, or you will not be held harmless for grading for your district. And obviously, nobody wants to be graded this year. So this is, I know some other districts have taken up this charge to pass on to legislators to say that we are adamantly opposed to this measure. Because that's all I'll say about it.
I'm with you.
I will say this, I think this will be the first resolution done by the municipalities. So, because the municipalities that I talked to today, they're in the works of trying to get it done. So we could be the first one to get a little head start in getting this done, hopefully.
So
Or at
we're not
least get it
standing
in.
out here in the desert alone, there's people are with us on this proposal,
Oh, yeah.
the other school districts.
Oh, yeah.
I would say every
I would say
across the state
140
is-
something.
I would
agrees
too.
with this, whether they have a resolution or not.
Yeah, that's right.
I
Good
would
to
say
hear.
so. All right, is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Lamar, and a second by
Second.
Mr. Benjamin. It's been moved and seconded, the meeting adjourned. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and this meeting is adjourned. Yeehaw.